Highstand system tract. What is Highstand system tract? When does it deposits during sea level cycle? Means that what is the stage of deposition of Highstand system tract during sea level cycle? How does it deposits? What is the process of deposition? What are the parts or stages of formation? And what are the characteristics of Highstand system tract? If you remember the previous lectures, first we discussed low stand system tract, which deposits during the falling stage of sea level cycle. Then after low stand system tract, we discussed the transgressive system tract, which deposits during the transgressive or the stage of transgression of sea level cycle. And the low stand system tract contains, or it is covered at its base by the sequence boundary, and at its top it have, or low stand system tract have, transgressive surface. And then after transgressive system tract develops, and the top of transgressive system contains maximum flooding surface. So the next system tract, which will develop in the last stage of sea level cycle, is termed as high stand system tract. And what is high stand system tract? A system tract which is bounded below by maximum marine flooding surface and above by sequence boundary, either type 1 or type 2, is called as high stand system tract. What is high stand system tract? High stand system tract refers to the system tract which have maximum flooding surface at its base, and at its tops it contains sequence boundary, and the sequence boundary can be type 1 sequence boundary, or it can be type 2 sequence boundary. So any system tract that have maximum flooding surface at its base and sequence boundary at its top is termed as high stand system tract. It is youngest system tract of both type 1 and type 2 depositional sequence. It represents the progradational topset claniform system. By the progradational topset claniform system means, or the progradational geometry, we means that coarsening, it is characterized by the coarsening upward sequence. The sediment's grain size increases when we move from the base of HST to the top of HST. How it is youngest system tract? You people know that a sequence represents deposition that has occurred during one sea level cycle. So the start of sea level cycle, that is fall, and subsequent slow sea level rise is characterized by the low stand system tract. And we have discussed that low system tract is the oldest, or it is basal part of type 1 sequence. Then after deposition of low stand system tract, there is transgressive surface, and at its base of low system tract there is sequence boundary. Then after transgressive surface there is deposition of a system tract which deposits during the sea level rise, and that system tract is termed as transgressive system tract. So transgressive system tract is the middle part of a sequence, or it is present in the mid of a sequence, and transgressive system tract is covered by the maximum flooding surface at its tops. And then after maximum flooding surface, now we discussed that high stand system tract refers to that system tract that contains maximum flooding surface at its base and sequence boundary at its top, and that sequence boundary can be of type 1 and it can be of type 2 depending upon the sea level fall. If the sea level fall has occurred below the offlake breakpoint, then sequence boundary type 2 sequence boundary type 1 sequence boundary will form. On the other hand, if the sea level fall has occurred above the offlake break, then type 2 sequence boundary will form. So system tract having a maximum flooding surface at its base and sequence boundary at its top, then such system tract is termed as high stand system tract. And we discussed that high stand system tract is the youngest system tract of a sequence. Why? How it is youngest system tract? Because it develops during the last stage of sea level cycle. As low stand system tract is the oldest, or it is most basal system tract of type 1 sequence. Because why low stand system tract is oldest? Because it develops or it deposits during the first or the initial stage of sea level cycle. And transgressive system tract, we call it as a middle system tract of sequence. Why? How middle system tract? Because it deposits during the middle stage or the mid part of sea level cycle. And the HST is the youngest system tract because it develops during the last stage or last phase of sea level cycle. That's why we call HST as a youngest system tract. And we discussed that it is characterized by the progradational topset claniform system. Means that there is fall within the sea level. There is decrease in the rate of sea level rise. And remember that Highstand system tract is commonly widespread on the shelf. It is present mostly on the shelfal region. As we have discussed that low stand system tract occurs within the basin, while transgressive system tract mostly contains claniform, and it also occurs mostly on the shelfal region or on the shelf. Similarly, the high stand system tract is also present commonly on the shelf. It is also present in the shelfal region. Now, when does high stand system tract develops during sea level cycle? It deposits after maximum transgression. By maximum transgression means maximum relative sea level rise of cycle and before a sequence boundary. During this interval, the rate of creation of accommodation is less than rate of sediment supply. As we discussed earlier, that it develops after the maximum transgression. Maximum transgression is represented by the maximum flooding surface and before the development of sequence boundary. So this is last phase of sea level cycle, and during this interval the rate of sediment supply is higher than the rate of creation of accommodation means that sediment supply is greater than the rate of creation of space for sediments to accumulate. Then the rate of creation of space for sediment accumulation is lower than the rate of sediment supply. There is more sediment supply as compared to the creation of accommodation. So whenever there is more sediment supply, then the accommodation space creation, then resulting geometries or resulting parasequences or bed strata will be in the form of progradational geometry. Now, how does Highstand system tract deposits? The Highstand system tract is characterized by decelerating rate of sea level rise through time, resulting in initial aggradational and later progradational architecture. Remember that during depositional stage of Highstand system tract, sea level is still rising after maximum flooding surface. It is rising, but the rate of sea level rise is slow than the rate of sediment supply. And this rate of sea level rise decreases with passage of time. That's why we say that it is characterized by the decelerating rate of sea level rise. The sea level rises decreases with the time. The rate of sea level rises decreases with the time. So initially, during the slow sea level rise, there is a gradation or the strata deposits in the form of a gradational geometry, and later on when the sea level fall starts, then progradational architecture form or the progradational geometry form. So what are the parts or stages of formation? It is first characterized by the gradual rise, and in gradual rise results in the agradational Highstand system tract. During gradual rise, agradation occur, and by the agradation we means that the same fishes develop vertically upward on top of one another. There is neither progradation nor retrogradation. Fascies build up vertically upward on top of one another. In progradation, fascies shift towards the basin, while in retrogradation, fascies shift towards the land. On other hand, in agradation, fascies doesn't shift neither to land nor to basin or not to sea. They just build on top of one another. Rocks layers deposit on top of one another, and this is called as agradation. So in initial stage, that is characterized by the gradual rise of sea level cycle, results in the agradation part of Highstand system tract, and after gradual rise there is still stand. By the still stand means that there is neither rise neither fall for some interval. So at this stage, the accommodation produced during sea level rise means that the accommodation produced during the gradual sea level rise will be filled by sediment supply, and hence progradational stacking pattern will form. This will lead to the reduction of thickness of top sets. Still stand में क्या होता है कि gradual rise के बाद sea level neither rises nor falls. It remains static. Its level remains same or remains static. And so the accommodation that has produced during the gradual rise transition के दौरान क्या होता है, sea level rise के दौरान accommodation space increase होता है, ज़्यादा produce होता है, और gradual और fall के दौरान accommodation space और accommodation get destroyed. So जो accommodation space gradual rise के दौरान produce हुआ होगा, that will be filled by the sediment supplied during the still stand. और जब वो fill हो जाएगा, जो space create हुआ होगा accommodation space, then there will be progradational stacking pattern. A gradation will convert during the still stand to the progradational geometry. Fishes will start building, or the rocks will start building towards the basin. And this will result in the reduction of thickness of topset. Now, after still stand, the next stage will be of the gradual fall. This stage will result in by the gradual fall, we mean this stage results in the deposition of prograding claniform sequence. Initially, during this stage, topsets were creating, and we discussed that it represents progradational topset claniform system. So initially, during A gradation and still stand, topsets were creating and during the still stand, topsets formation will stop, and during gradual fall, the deposition of prograding claniforms will start developing. So as a result, gradual fall is the last stage or last phase of Highstand system tract deposition. And due to these three stages, prograding topset claniform system will form. And this system tract having progradational topset claniform system is termed as Highstand system tract. Initially, it is agradational in geometry, but with passage of time, as the rate of sea level rise falls or it decreases, and gradual sea level fall begins, then the aggradational geometry will convert into the progradational geometry. Now you can observe here, this is low stand system tract. We discussed earlier that the transgressive system tract, low stand system tract contains sequence boundary at its base. Already it is black, but I'm further making it dark. So it has sequence boundary at its base, and after sequence boundary type 1, there is deposition of low stand system tract as represented by this light red color. These are the submarine fans, this is flow fans, and this is low stand wedge. So after low stand system tract, a surface forms which is termed as transgressive surface as represented by these dashed lines. Transgressive surface, and transgressive surface indicates start of transgression, and after transgression there will be deposition of system tract termed as transgressive system tract. It will be dominantly present on the shelfal region, and after transgressive system tract, when the maximum sea level rise occur, maximum sea level rise will be indicated by the maximum flooding surface. This is maximum flooding surface represented by these dark dashed line. Now after maximum flooding surface, the system tract which will be developed, we are discussing this system tract, that is Highstand system tract. And the Highstand system tract contains MFS at its base, and then at its top there is sequence boundary. The sequence boundary will be the type 2 sequence boundary if the sea level fall has not occurred below the off-lake breakpoint. Otherwise, it will be type 1 sequence boundary if the sea level fall has occurred below the off-lake breakpoint. In sequence boundary type 2, sea level fall doesn't occur below the off-lake breakpoint, or type 1 sequence में sea level fall occur below the off-lake breakpoint, और यहाँ पे above the off-lake breakpoint होता है sequence boundary type 2 की deposition में. So in this way, high stand system tract develops. This is typical high stand system tract which has developed mostly on the shelfal region. It contains top sets as well as these are the clinoforms of high stand system tract. So this was all about the high stand system tract, that how does it deposit, how it develops,